Imagine trying to um, maintain a really close friendship where literally every single conversation feels like you're translating a complex foreign language in your head,
Oh, wow. Yeah,
right? And all while you're standing right next to a blaring fire alarm.
that sounds completely exhausting.
It is. But for so many autistic adults, that is the daily reality of traditional socializing. I mean, pop culture really sells us this uh, very specific script for what friendship is supposed to look like.
Oh, totally. The whole sitcom group hanging out at a loud coffee shop.
Exactly. Just finishing each other's sentences, engaging this endless, high-energy, witty banter. We're essentially taught that being a good friend means you're constantly available, you're loud, and you're just effortlessly social.
Right, and that expectation of constant availability is treated as the universal gold standard. Like, if
Yeah.
you can't keep up with that exact pace, society basically implies you're just doing friendship wrong.
Yeah, which is exactly why we're doing today's deep dive. We were looking at a really comprehensive guide to real connection for autistic adults, and it's published by an organization called Hey ASD.
And Hey ASD is an entirely autistic-owned and autistic-led platform.
Yes, which I love. It completely avoids that terrible um, inspiration porn angle. There's no heavy clinical jargon written by outsiders. It's just rooted purely in lived experience.
Exactly. It gives us a window into the actual mechanics of autistic relationships. So our mission today is to decode that unique and honestly frequently misunderstood rhythm of these friendships.
We really have to strip away all those neurotypical assumptions about what socializing should look like.
Right, so we can see what authentic connection actually is.
And if you're listening right now, whether you're autistic or maybe you love someone who is, or honestly, if you're just deeply exhausted by the daily performance of modern socializing, this deep dive is for you.
It really is. Understanding this alternative model is like a shortcut to recognizing what true, authentic belonging actually feels like.
Because, first off, we have to throw out this huge myth that friendship is supposed to be effortless.
Yeah, effortless is a luxury. It's a luxury of a brain that inherently filters out background noise.
Boy.
For autistic adults living in a world built entirely on unspoken social rules and sensory chaos, connection requires constant translation. It's a lot of work.
Which is why, when an autistic individual gets a diagnosis later in life, they often describe this massive collision of both grief and relief.
Oh, absolutely. There's so much grief for past friendships that cracked under the pressure of trying to maintain that neurotypical standard.
But then there's that relief, right?
Exactly. The relief of finally understanding that their way of existing isn't broken or deficient, it's just deliberate.
Deliberate. I really want to unpack that word because the traditional assumption is that we show we care by, like, exaggerated facial expressions or constantly nodding or rushing to fill every single silence with small talk.
Yeah, that frantic need to fill the quiet.
Right. But when you look at how autistic communication functions,
Yeah.
it is incredibly direct. It's precise. It often uses way fewer words.
Because care isn't about being the loudest person in the room. Care is shown by sharing useful resources or remembering hyper-specific details about what the other person loves.
Or just offering a quiet, undemanding presence, which is so deeply tied to sensory realities. I think a lot of neurotypical people completely misunderstand this.
They really do.
Like, think about your average crowded restaurant. To a neurotypical brain, the overlapping voices, the clinking silverware, the bright fluorescent lights, it all just fades into the background.
Your brain automatically filters it out.
Exactly. But for an autistic brain,
That brain is often processing all of that sensory input at full volume, all at once.
oh, wow.
It's not just mildly annoying, it is a literal neurological assault. The cognitive load required just to sit there and tolerate that environment is immense.
It just drains your battery so fast.
Yes, and it often triggers a complete physical or emotional shutdown. So genuine friendship in this context means recognizing those sensory boundaries as absolute necessities, not just picky preferences.
Which completely explains why comfort items are so vital. Things like tagless clothing to prevent that tactile irritation, or weighted blankets, or noise-canceling headphones.
Right, these aren't just fun novelties. They are physical tools that lower the neurological overwhelm.
So the brain actually has enough bandwidth left to connect with another human being.
Exactly.
It's like, okay, think about traditional small talk, like keeping a dozen unused apps open in the background of your smartphone.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
Right, you aren't actively looking at them, but they are silently, constantly draining your battery all day long.
Yeah.
But autistic friendship operates completely differently. It's like putting your phone on Do Not Disturb mode.
Yes. highly focused, low drain.
You can just be deeply, intensely present with the one specific thing right in front of you.
Because autistic friendship isn't about performing, it's about presence. It's the calm of just being seen without needing to constantly explain yourself.
That sounds so peaceful, honestly.
It is. When you remove that sensory friction, when you close all those draining background apps, you create the actual prerequisite for genuine connection.
Okay, but that begs a huge question. If traditional social environments are such massive battery drainers, why do so many autistic individuals force themselves to endure them for decades?
Well, that brings us right to the exhausting mechanism of masking.
Masking, right.
Yeah, masking is essentially the act of manually overriding your own neurological instincts just to meet neurotypical expectations.
Like forcing eye contact even when it feels physically uncomfortable.
Exactly. Or suppressing the urges to stim. Stimming being those repetitive movements like hand flapping or rocking that autistic individuals use to self-regulate their nervous system.
So they're artificially mimicking that fast-paced sitcom banter just to blend in.
And the toll that takes is severe. Because the brain is manually running the socializing software instead of it running automatically, it leads to profound, debilitating burnout.
Which means true friendship has to offer environments where unmasking is not just tolerated, but completely safe.
Absolutely. You cannot have authentic connection if someone is trapped in a permanent performance.
So how do they find those safe spaces?
The primary bridge to avoiding the trap of masking is focused interests. Some people call them special interests.
Okay, so building common ground around a shared passion.
Right, whether that's a highly specific era of medieval history or the intricate mechanics of a board game or computer coding, that shared intensity creates mutual understanding infinitely faster than vague small talk ever could.
Okay, wait, I have to push back here a little bit.
Sure.
Because this completely contradicts basically every piece of conventional social advice we've ever been given, right?
No, it really does.
Like from a young age, we're taught that going on a massive 20-minute monologue about one specific topic is a total conversational faux pas, seen as dominating the room. So how does a massive deep dive into a single hyperfixation actually build a reciprocal friendship?
Well, it forces us to redefine what engagement actually looks like. The key is establishing gentle boundaries.
Gentle boundaries, what does that look like?
It's not about one person holding the other hostage with a monologue. It's about structuring the passion. So maybe you explicitly alternate turns sharing hyperfixations.
Ah,
Or you literally schedule dedicated time for these deep dive conversations. The connection thrives because the curiosity is a shared experience.
so the intense focus isn't a distraction from the friendship.
No, it is the bridge itself. Think about it. When you listen to someone talk about their special interest, you are witnessing them in a state of pure, unmasked joy.
Wow. Sharing that joy really is a profoundly intimate act.
Exactly.
Reframing the monologue changes everything. It's not a lack of social awareness at all. It's this enthusiastic, vulnerable bid for connection. Like saying, look at this amazing thing I found and I trust you enough to share it with you.
Yeah. And things get incredibly interesting when this deliberate, highly structured approach to friendship collides with a completely different neurological wiring.
Like ADHD.
Yes, the dance between autistic and ADHD individuals is just fascinating to look at.
It really is the ultimate rhythm contrast.
Yeah.
Because autism often prefers structure, predictability, and immense depth.
Right. And meanwhile, the ADHD brain is constantly seeking dopamine. It craves spontaneity, novelty, and rapid movement.
It's a profound collision of neurorhythms. I like to picture it like a jazz band.
Oh, that's a perfect way to look at it.
Yeah, the autistic friend provides this incredibly steady, reliable bass line. It grounds the music, it holds the whole thing together. And then the ADHD friend brings the wild, improvised, high-energy trumpet solo.
I love that. And if they are actively listening to each other and respecting the underlying tempo, it creates brilliant harmony.
But if they just play over each other.
Then it quickly devolves into absolute chaos.
Right, so where does that chaos usually come from?
Usually those moments of friction erupt around two specific differences: pacing and emotional regulation.
Pacing being the need for rest versus the need for movement.
Exactly. But emotional regulation is where things get really tricky. An ADHD individual often externalizes their big emotions. They process feelings outwardly, sometimes very loudly, just to make sense of them.
Oh, and an autistic friend might experience that as an overwhelming wave of sensory input.
Yes. So to regulate themselves, the autistic brain often needs to retreat, find quiet, and process internally.
I bet a lot of listeners are nodding right now. If you have an ADHD friend or an autistic friend, you've probably lived this exact dynamic. The ADHD friend is venting, and the autistic friend steps back.
And to the ADHD brain, that retreat instantly feels like rejection. They think, why are you pulling away when I'm just trying to express myself?
But it's not a lack of care at all.
Not at all. The crucial takeaway is that these tensions are usually just timing or sensory mismatches. The solution is explicit communication. You have to take the guesswork out of the jazz performance.
By naming your needs in the moment.
Exactly, sharing the lead.
So like the autistic friend saying, hey, I need a minute of quiet to think instead of just shutting down.
Yes.
Or the ADHD friend explicitly saying, I'm just really excited right now. I'm not trying to interrupt you.
Right. It's about clarifying intent.
Okay, but everything we've talked about so far assumes a very verbal, energetic style of communication. We need to zoom out a bit because friendship isn't always spoken.
That is such an important point. For nonverbal or more impacted autistic individuals, connection relies on entirely different pathways. But they are equally profound.
Like using AEC devices.
Yes, augmentative and alternative communication tools.
Mm-hmm.
Or physical communication boards. Or even just subtle gestures.
Or is it parallel play?
Exactly. Connection might just be sitting together in the same room, maybe listening to the same music, without exchanging a single spoken word.
Which brings up online communities, too. Places like Discord servers or gaming guilds.
Those are entirely valid, deeply real friendships. They act as a low-pressure, gentle bridge before an in-person meetup ever used to happen.
Because you can completely control your own sensory environment in your room, and you can take all the time you need to process text before responding.
It's an ideal setup.
But, if you're a neurotypical person hanging out with someone who is minimally verbal, it can be confusing. How do you actually know you are connecting?
Right.
Like, what does presence look like as a tangible action if you aren't getting eye contact or verbal affirmation?
That question cuts to the absolute core of neurotypical allyship, because connection is not measured in words spoken. It's measured in how deeply we are understood without them.
So how does an ally practice that?
Practicing presence means providing absolute clarity. Giving your friend a specific time, a specific place, and a clear sensory context for a meetup.
Rather than just being vague and saying, oh, let's hang out sometime.
Exactly. And furthermore, it means actively releasing your own demand for traditional body language. You cannot assume that a lack of eye contact means a lack of care.
Because eye contact can be intensely overwhelming for an autistic person.
Right. Shared presence is an active state of respect. It's learning to sit in the silence and letting it be comfortable.
Instead of rushing to fill the air with noise just because you feel awkward.
Yes, you are treating their neurological comfort as the priority.
Which makes sense. And this is also where structured community supports become incredibly valuable, right?
Oh, absolutely. Things like local special interest clubs, or programs funded by something like the NDIS, the National Disability Insurance Scheme in Australia.
Those help manufacture the structure needed to meet people safely.
Because they remove the unpredictable variables of socializing, so you can focus entirely on the human connection.
But because building these friendships requires such careful sensory alignment and so much vulnerable unmasking, they carry an immense emotional weight.
They do. For autistic adults, friendship is never casual, it is sacred.
And because these relationships are rare, safe harbors in a really loud world, losing them is uniquely devastating.
We really have to address how these friendships end.
Right. Because when you lose a friend as an autistic adult, you aren't just losing a person you like talking to. You are losing a reliable routine that brought you physical and emotional safety.
You're losing one of the few spaces on Earth where you didn't have to perform. The sensation is often described as the ground completely shifting beneath your feet.
That is heartbreaking. So how do you even recognize when a friend is struggling before it gets to that point?
Well, the signs aren't always loud or dramatic. They rarely look like a big cinematic argument. Instead, struggling often looks like subtle withdrawal.
Like an increase in non-communicative shutdowns.
Yes, or a sudden pattern of canceled plans. Now, the instinctive neurotypical response is usually to push, right? To demand to know what's wrong or force a confrontation.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But what the autistic nervous system actually requires in that moment is gentle presence, without any pressure to perform or explain.
Gentle presence, not pressure. That is definitely a golden rule.
Mm,
But even with that, sometimes relationships still fade.
they do. But there is an incredibly powerful reframing of that grief. Grieving a friendship is proof that you loved authentically.
What?
You are grieving the rhythm of the relationship. You're grieving the comfort of finally being understood. Endings are not failures.
I love that. Allowing that concept to truly settle changes how we view loss entirely.
It really does. An ending isn't a reflection of a personal deficit. It's not a failure to mask well enough. It is an act of self-preservation.
There's this profound idea in the Hey ASD guide that you don't lose people who are meant for you. Instead, you are simply creating space for those who speak your current language.
Right. For an autistic adult, making room for new relationships that match their current sensory needs, their current pacing, and their unmasked self. That is a deeply healthy evolution.
Viewing the loss of a friendship as proof of authentic love honors the depth of that connection, even if it could only exist for a specific season of life. It completely takes the shame out of the ending.
When you synthesize all of these lived experiences, it reveals a complete paradigm shift in how we define relationships.
We're moving entirely away from the concept of friendship as an endless performance.
Exactly. We're learning to prioritize neurological and sensory safety. We're exploring how to share the tempo between different neurotypes, like the steady bass and the improvised trumpet.
Ultimately, true belonging is simply about being seen in your truest, most unvarnished form, without constantly needing to translate yourself just to make the room comfortable.
It's about genuine acceptance.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, here's what I want you to reflect on. We've explored how utterly exhausting it is for autistic adults to perform traditional social norms, to constantly wear that heavy
It's
mask.
just to make neurotypical people comfortable.
Right. But take a hard look at your own life and your own relationships. Regardless of your neurotype, how much of your social energy is currently being spent performing?
That's a great question.
How much of your daily battery is silently, constantly drained by forced small talk, by pretending to enjoy crowded, loud environments, or by ignoring your own sensory boundaries just to be polite? How often are you trying to match a frantic social pace that doesn't actually suit who you are?
Probably more often than we realize.
What if the autistic model of friendship, this beautiful model that prioritizes absolute honesty, clear communication, sensory comfort, and quiet shared presence over noisy performance, isn't just a survival guide for neurodivergent folks? What if closing all those draining background apps and finally switching your social life to Do Not Disturb mode is actually the social upgrade we all desperately need?